positivity. Every showrunner has had their strengths and flaws, and that's a whole nother video, but the short and not always accurate but close assessment is that RTD's heart was huge but sometimes got in the way of his brain, and Moffat's brain was huge but sometimes got in the way of his heart. Although, honestly, both of them seem to know that about themselves, and some of their best stories came out of it. The 10th Doctor got into trouble because his emotions overcame his logic in Last of the Time Lords, whereas the 12th Doctor is always getting into trouble or putting people in danger because either his logic overrides his emotions or he can't tell the difference between the two. Chibnall, meanwhile, has a nice balance of both brain and heart, but if Chris Chibnall were a chef, he'd be the guy who shows up with a stack of great ingredients, fresh vegetables, prime cuts of meat, interesting spices, and so on, and you're like, "Wow, Chris, this looks amazing. What are you cooking tonight?" And he'd go, "What do you mean?" And you'd be like, "Well, you've got all these great ingredients. Are you gonna do something with them?" "Oh, what do you mean?" Case in point, the Battle of bloody blah blah blah. Okay, there were a bunch of things that I almost liked. The idea behind the Ux was fascinating and could have made a really good point about fundamentalism. That opening scene is amazing. The idea behind Graham's desire to get revenge on Tim Shaw could have worked if Tim Shaw had actually killed Grace in cold blood instead of her making the decision to risk her own life in the first place. And I don't hate Tim Shaw, honestly, because I think he's kind of supposed to be a ruthless yet slightly crap villain. He's a mean, nasty bounty hunter with teeth in his face who kills because it's fun. He's not Davros or Missy or even Harrison Chase. No tragic backstory that made him the way he is. He is the way he is because the Stenza are assholes. The specific ways in which his dickishness manifests itself contrast with our heroes in mildly interesting ways. The Doctor is empathetic and forgiving, and Tim Shaw isn't. Grace was kind and curious, and Tim Shaw isn't. The Ux are devout. Tim Shaw believes in nothing. Graham makes poor choices because he's mourning the woman he loves. Tim Shaw makes poor choices because he's mean and he wants your teeth. Okay, yeah, you actually could possibly build a story around the return of Tim Shaw and the ensuing consequences. Heck, you could even build an interesting story around that. They didn't. The Battle of Ranskoor Kolos constantly teases you with alluring visions of what an interesting/meaningful version of that story might look like. This should have been like Jodie's Bad Wolf Pandorica story, right? The face the consequences of your actions narrative. The Doctor was too kind in her first episode and let Tim Shaw go, and now he's killed billions of people, and these all-powerful, immortal beings treat him like a god. He's this cruel, thuggish brute who literally fell into a position of authority and omniscience. Compare that to the 13th Doctor, a near-immortal being dedicated to kindness and fairness on a macro level. She arguably messed up by being too merciful early on. Can she continue to be kind? Does her kindness have a limit? How does she deal with somebody who, again, literally fell into the position of being God, and he's this ruthless, moral-free killer? They introduce a freaking psychic blocker MacGuffin gadget in the first 10 minutes. That's how you fix the Tim Shaw problem. You reconfigure the What's-It circuit, you slap it on Tim Shaw's neck, and suddenly he's got to feel all the pain he's caused. Either he goes mad and kills himself, or he becomes a better person. If you're committed to 13 as like the empathy doctor, that's how she saves the day. She literally makes him feel. Maybe doing that rewires all the Stenza, and they become peaceful. Like 10 liberated the Ood. All the ingredients are like right there, Chris. They're right there, man. You could. Also, let's talk about the Ux. Again, they're potentially interesting. Two of them, they're immortal, they're godlike, they have power, blah, blah, blah. Like, are they really that dumb? Or, okay, what about this? So, you've got all four characters. There's the Doctor. She's got to decide how to deal with Tim Shaw. What if all the different companions have a different take on it? Like, Yaz is a cop. She believes in justice. She believes that things must be set right. Maybe Graham is pissed off because even though Tim Shaw didn't really kill Grace, he, kind of caused her death. So he's angry and he's like, let's just deal with this. Meanwhile, Ryan, which he kind of does in the episode as it exists, winds up sort of being the heart, sort of the guy who's like preaching mercy. And the doctor's got to come up with a solution that kind of balances all those takes on it. And that's how you get Yaz actually being a character with an opinion. And there you go. She's right there. She has a perspective on the world. It's right there in your damn script, Chris. This should have been good. This should have been so much. Resolution was okay though. I liked the steampunk Dalek thing.